town sits quietly, the way it always has. It does not announce itself to anyone passing through. There are no signs meant to impress, no turns that surprise. It is simply there, settled into the land, holding its shape without effort. There is one main street. It runs straight through the center. Not long, not short, just long enough to connect what needs connecting. The pavement is smooth in some places, rougher in others, worn down slowly over time by the same cars traveling the same distances each day. On one end of the street, the road narrows and becomes quieter. Houses appear there, spaced comfortably apart. Each one looks much like the next. Those small differences reveal themselves if someone takes the time to notice. A porch wider here, a fence lower there. Nothing that needs remembering. On the other end, the street opens slightly before fading back into open road again, leading away without urgency. In between, everything rests. The only store sits near the center of the street. It has always been there, as far back as anyone remembers. The building is modest, with a wide front window and a door that opens easily. The sign above it is simple, its lettering faded just enough to feel familiar, rather than old. The sidewalk in front of the store is smooth from years of footsteps. Some walk straight across it. Others pause briefly, then continue on. No one needs to think about where to stand. Across the street there is a small post office. Next to it, an empty building that once held something else, and now holds nothing in particular. Farther down, a diner rests with its windows facing the street, stools lined up inside, even when no one is sitting on them. Everything is close, nothing is far away. From one end of the street to the other, the walk is unhurried and short enough that no one checks the time. A person can stroll the whole length without feeling like they've gone anywhere special. Side streets branch off quietly. They lead to more houses, a small park, a school that rests quietly outside of school hours. Each street curves gently, never sharply, as if designed to avoid sudden decisions. The town does not rush. Morning comes here slowly, and evening does the same. The spaces between hours feel wide. Days move forward without drawing attention to themselves. The store stands ready each morning. Its door opens outward. The bell above it sounds softly when it moves, a sound so familiar it barely registers. Shelves inside hold what they have always held. Items sit in the same places, replaced when needed, left alone when not. People know where everything is. They do not search. They simply reach. The distance from the store to the post office is short. From the store to the diner, shorter still. From the diner to the houses beyond, a little farther, but never far enough to feel removed. Cars park along the street in familiar spots. Some remain there for hours. Others come and go. None of them disrupt the rhythm. A bench sits near the edge of the sidewalk. It faces the street, not because there is something to watch, but because that is where it is always faced. The paint is worn smooth along the edges. It holds no significance beyond being where someone might sit for a moment. The town breathes quietly. Wind moves through at its own pace, brushing against windows, lifting dust gently, then settling again. Trees along the side streets sway slightly, leaves shifting without sound. Nothing competes for attention. Nothing needs improvement. The store waits just as it always does, ready to open, ready to close, ready to mark time without keeping track of it. The street remains unchanged. The buildings remain where they are. The town continues being itself. Morning arrives the way it always does. Light spreads across the town slowly, touching rooftops first, then moving down toward windows and doors. Shadows shorten without anyone noticing. The air cools slightly before warming again, following a pattern that never needs explanation. The store opens at the same time it always has. The key turns easily in the lock. The door swings outward. The bell sounds once, clear and soft. Then the sound fades into the stillness of the early street. Inside, the lights are switched on. They hum quietly, steady and even. The shelves look the same as they did yesterday. The counter rests where it always has. Nothing has shifted overnight. The front window lets in the morning light. It falls across the floor in a long rectangle, stopping at the base of the counter. Dust moves lazily through it, visible only when the light catches just right. The day begins. The first person of the morning arrives without hurry. The door opens, the bell sounds again, and footsteps cross the floor. A few items are picked up. The counter is used. The door opens again. The bell rings once more. Then quiet returns. This happens again. And then again. Each visit feels much like the last. The rhythm forms quickly, as it always does. People come in at different times, but the actions remain the same. Hands reach for familiar items. Feet pause in familiar spots. Outside, the street wakes gradually. Cars pass through without stopping. One parks along the curb. Another leaves a space open. The diner opens its doors, chairs scraping softly against the floor inside as they are set in place. The post office unlocks its door. The flag out front shifts slightly in the breeze, then settles. Inside the store, time moves evenly. Shelves are checked, items are straightened, not because they need it, but because the hands know how to do it. A box is opened, its contents placed where they belong. Empty cardboard is folded and set aside. The bell continues to ring at steady intervals. Each ring sounds the same as the last. None of them surprised. Mid-morning arrives quietly. The light through the window shifts, the rectangle on the floor shortening, then sliding slightly to one side. The air warms. The hum of the lights remains unchanged. A familiar face passes the window, then another. Some come inside. Some continue on. Inside the store, a small routine repeats. The counter is wiped. The register is checked. A note is made, not because anything is wrong, but because it is always done. Outside, footsteps pass on the sidewalk. They pause sometimes, then move on. The bench remains empty, then occupied briefly, then empty again. The sounds of the town repeat. A car door closes, a truck passes. The bell rings. The middle of the day arrives without marking itself. The light is higher now. Shadows are shorter. The street looks much the same as it did earlier, only brighter, more evenly lit. the store remains open. People arrive in familiar patterns, some in the late morning, some just after. Others wait until later still. Each visit fits into the day easily, without shifting anything out of place. Inside, shelves are touched again. Items are restocked where needed. The same motions repeat. The same paths are walked behind the counter, around the aisles, back to the door. Outside, the diner fills, then empties, then fills again. Sounds drift in through the open door of the store. Dishes clink. A voice rises briefly, then settles. The door closes again, and the sounds fade. The afternoon moves in gently. The light changes again, warming in color, angling slightly differently through the window. The air cools just enough to be noticed, then steadies. The bell continues its quiet work. Each ring signals the same thing it always has. Someone arriving, someone leaving. Nothing more. A familiar figure passes by the window again. Later, that same figure returns, walking the opposite direction. The street looks unchanged. The store remains steady. The day continues in its predictable way. Nothing stands out. Nothing needs to. The afternoon settles into itself. It feels much like the hours before it, only quieter in small ways that are easy to miss. The street holds fewer passing cars now. Footsteps are spaced farther apart. The light through the store's window has shifted again, stretching longer across the floor. The bell rings. It sounds exactly as it always does. A familiar person steps inside, the same one who came earlier in the day. Their movements are the same. They pause in the same place. Their hands reach for the same shelf. The counter is used again, briefly, without conversation that needs remembering. The door opens. The bell rings. The door closes. The sound fades. Outside, the same figure passes the window again, walking at the same pace as before. The sidewalk looks unchanged beneath their steps. The bench remains where it was, holding the same space it always has. Inside the store, the routine continues. Shelves are checked once more, not because anything has changed, but because this is the time it is usually done. A small adjustment is made to an item near the front. Another is straightened farther back. The register opens and closes. The sound is soft, familiar, reassuring in its sameness. The post office door opens and closes again across the street. Someone steps out, then moves down the sidewalk at an unhurried pace. The flag shifts slightly in the breeze, then settles back into stillness. The diner quiets. The lunchtime rush has passed. Stools sit empty now, evenly spaced. The windows reflect the street more than they reveal what's inside. The store remains open. The bell rings again and again. Each time feels like the last. Each visit blends easily into the next. No one lingers long. No one rushes. The sounds repeat. Footsteps on pavement. A car passing. The bell above the door. Inside, the hum of the lights remains constant. It does not rise or fall. It simply stays. The light outside softens. Shadows stretch along the street, lengthening slowly. The edges of buildings blur slightly as the afternoon leans toward evening. The same people appear again. One walks past the window. Later, they return. Another pauses near the bench, then continues on. Their presence feels expected, though no one is waiting for them. Inside the store, the same motions repeat. A cloth moves across the counter. A box is checked. A note is glanced at. Nothing new is added. Nothing is removed. The predictability settles in. It feels steady. It feels safe. The street does not surprise. The store does not change. The town continues to move through its familiar pattern, each part fitting neatly into the next. The bell rings once more. The sound fades again. Everything remains as it was. Evening comes quietly to the town. It does not arrive all at once. It settles in slowly, touching the edges first. The light softens. The colors of the buildings grow warmer, then more muted. Shadows stretch longer along the sidewalk, resting comfortably where they land. Inside the store, the day begins to wind down. The shelves look much the same as they did in the morning. Items remain where they belong. The counter is clear. The register sits closed, waiting for the last few uses of the day. The bell rings again, a familiar sound, unchanged. Someone steps inside, moving at an easy pace. They pick up what they need. They stand at the counter briefly. The door opens again. The bell sounds once more, then fades as the door closes behind them. Outside, the street grows quieter. Cars pass less often now. Some park and remain. Others continue on without stopping. The diner's lights glow warmly through its windows, but the sounds inside are softer now, slower. Across the street, the post office stands closed. Its door is locked. The flag rests still. The building holds its quiet without effort. The store remains open a little longer. Inside, a small routine begins. The counter is wiped once more, slowly, carefully. The cloth moves in familiar patterns. The register is checked again, not because it needs to be, but because it always is. The light through the window fades. What was once bright now rests in a gentle glow, barely reaching the floor. The hum of the lights inside feels more noticeable as the outside grows darker. The bell rings again. This time it feels softer, as if the evening has absorbed part of the sound. Someone steps in, pauses, then leaves again. The visit is brief. The routine remains unchanged. Outside, the bench sits empty. Streetlights flicker on one by one, casting small pools of light along the pavement. They do not compete with the fading daylight. They simply replace it. Inside the store, the final tasks begin. A small sign is turned. The motion is simple. The result familiar. The shelves are given one last look. The aisles remain neat. Nothing needs adjusting. Everything is as it should be. The door closes gently. The bell sounds one final time, its ring lingering just slightly longer in the quieter air. Then it fades, leaving the store still and quiet. The lights inside dim, not all at once. One, then another. The window reflects the street now instead of revealing the inside. The glass holds the image of streetlights, of passing shadows, of a town settling into its evening rhythm. Outside, the main street rests. The diner remains open a while longer. Its lights glow warmly. Farther down, houses light up one by one, windows shining softly against the darkening sky. The street holds its familiar shape. Nothing has changed. The store is closed now, just as it has been many evenings before. Tomorrow it will open again. The routine will return, unchanged, predictable, safe. For now the town rests. Lights glow softly. Sounds fade. The street remains. And the quiet continues. The town is small enough to understand all at once. It has one main street that runs straight through the center, wide enough for 2 lanes of traffic and a line of parked cars on either side. The pavement is worn smooth in places, marked faintly where tires have passed over it day after day. Buildings line the street in an easy way. They are spaced close together near the middle, then slowly spread out toward the edges. None of them rise very high. Most are 1 story. A few reach up just a little more, their upper windows quiet and still. The only store sits near the center. It is easy to find. It always has been. The sidewalk in front of it is clean and level, with just enough space to stand without being in anyone's way. The door opens outward. The bell above it rings softly when it moves. Across the street, the diner faces the store. Its windows are wide, letting light spill onto the sidewalk in the evenings. A few steps farther down, the post office sits square and steady, its entrance simple, its presence expected. The distance between these places is short. A person can walk from the store to the diner in a few slow steps. From the diner to the post office takes only a little longer. Nothing feels far away. Nothing feels separated. Side streets branch off quietly. They lead away from the main street toward rows of houses. Each street curves gently, never sharply, as if designed to keep movement calm. The houses sit back from the road, spaced evenly, their yards modest and familiar. Walking through town never takes long. From one end of the main street to the other is a comfortable walk, one that doesn't require planning. Most people know the distance by feel rather than by measurement. A bench sits along the sidewalk. It faces the street without purpose, offering a place to pause. The paint on it is worn thin in places, smoothed by time rather than neglect. It looks the same each day. The town does not change much. Buildings stay where they are. The street keeps its shape. Even the cracks in the pavement seem familiar, appearing in the same places year after year. Sounds travel easily here. A car passing can be heard from one end of the street to the other. Footsteps echo briefly, then fade. The bell from the store carries softly into the air, then disappears. The pace of the town is steady. Morning, afternoon, and evening move through it without drawing attention. There is no rush to arrive anywhere. There is no pressure to leave. Walking is common here. Most places are close enough that a person doesn't need to think about how they'll get there. Paths are known, routes are familiar. Steps fall naturally into rhythm. The store, the diner, the post office, the houses beyond. They form a simple pattern, one that repeats each day without effort, The town rests within that pattern, unchanged, predictable, and quiet. The day begins the same way it always does. Morning light reaches the town gradually, spreading across rooftops and sidewalks without hurry. The air is cool at first, then warms slightly as the sun rises higher. Shadows shorten, then settle into their usual places. The walk to the store is familiar. The same streets, the same houses, the same quiet distance between them. Each step follows the last without thought. The sidewalk feels even beneath foot, the edges worn smooth. A passing car moves by slowly, then disappears down the street. The store door opens. The bell rings once, clear and soft. Inside, the lights come on, humming quietly. Shelves wait just as they were left the evening before. The counter stands empty and ready. The morning moves forward. Items are checked. A box is opened. A small stack is straightened. The motions are practiced, repeated each day without variation. Hands know where to go before the mind thinks about it. The bell rings again. Someone steps inside. The same sound, the same movement. Items are selected. The counter is used. The door opens. The bell rings once more, then fades. This happens again and again. Outside, the main street wakes gently. Cars pass through at an easy pace. One parks near the curb. Another leaves a space open. Footsteps move along the sidewalk, pausing briefly near the window before continuing on. Mid-morning arrives without notice. The light through the front window shifts slightly, angling across the floor. Dust drifts through it, visible only when the sun catches it just right. The routine continues. Shelves are checked again. The counter is wiped. The register opens and closes. Each sound fits neatly into the day, repeating without change. Across the street, the diner opens. Chairs are set in place. The door swings open, then settles. Sounds drift across the street briefly, then soften as the door closes again. The post office unlocks its door. The flag shifts gently in the breeze. Someone enters. Later, someone leaves. The store remains steady. The bell rings at familiar intervals. The same faces appear. Some pass by without stopping. Others step inside, then leave again. The visits are brief, expected, unremarkable. Midday arrives. The street looks brighter now, evenly lit. Shadows rest close to buildings. The air feels warmer, though still comfortable. The routine repeats. A box is moved. A shelf is checked. The counter is wiped again. Nothing new is added. Nothing is taken away. Afternoon begins quietly. The light changes again, warming in tone. Shadows stretch slightly longer. The pace of the street slows without anyone deciding it should. The bell rings. A familiar sound. Unchanged. Someone steps inside, then leaves again. Another passes the window, then returns later, walking in the opposite direction. The day continues, moving forward in small, steady steps. Eventually, evening begins to approach. The light softens. The street grows calmer. Sounds space themselves farther apart. The store remains open. The routine continues. The afternoon settles into a familiar rhythm. It feels much like the morning did, only slower, as if the day has learned what it needs to do and no longer feels the need to move quickly. The street holds the same shape. The buildings remain unchanged. The air drifts gently from one moment to the next. The bell rings again. The sound is exactly the same as it was earlier. A familiar person steps inside. They pause in the same place they always do. Their eyes move along the same shelves. Their hands reach without hesitation. The counter is used briefly, then left clear again. The door opens. The bell rings. The door closes. Outside, the same person walks past the window later on, heading back the way they came. Their pace does not change. Their presence feels expected. The routine continues. Shelves are checked again, even though nothing has shifted. A small adjustment is made near the front, more out of habit than necessity. The register opens and closes with the same soft sound it always makes. Across the street, the diner quiets. The midday rush has passed. Stools sit evenly spaced. The windows reflect the street more than they reveal what's inside. Light glows softly behind the glass. The post office door opens once more. Someone steps out, pauses briefly on the sidewalk, then walks away at an easy pace. The flag moves slightly, then settles again. The bell rings. Another familiar face appears. Someone who was here earlier. Someone who will likely return another day, at the same time, following the same path. The sound of footsteps repeats along the sidewalk. A car passes. Another slows. Then the street rests again. Inside the store, the same motions repeat. The counter is wiped. The shelves are scanned. The floor is checked. Each action feels complete, even though it has been done before and will be done again. The light through the window shifts again. It stretches longer now, sliding slowly across the floor. The air cools just slightly, then steadies. The same people appear once more. One pauses near the bench outside. Later they pass by again. Another crosses the street, then returns. The patterns repeat without drawing attention. The predictability feels settled. Nothing interrupts it. Nothing challenges it. The town moves through its familiar shape, each part fitting into the next without effort. The bell rings again and again. Each ring blends into the last. The day leans gently toward evening. Evening arrives quietly. The light softens first, losing its brightness without fully fading. Shadows stretch along the sidewalk, resting gently against the edges of buildings. The street grows calmer, not because anything stops, but because everything slows. Inside the store, the day begins to come to a close. The shelves look the same as they did in the morning. Items remain where they belong. The counter is clear. The register sits ready for its last few uses. The bell rings again. A familiar sound, one that has marked the hours all day. Someone steps inside, pauses briefly, then leaves again. The visit is short, the routine unchanged. Outside, the main street rests. Cars pass less often now. A few remain parked, their shapes steady under the softening light. The diner's windows glow warmly, though the sounds inside are quieter now. Across the street, the post office stands closed. Its door is locked. The flag rests still. Inside the store, the final routines begin. The counter is wiped one last time, slowly and carefully. Shelves are checked, not because anything needs attention, but because it is always done. A small sign is turned. The motion is simple, the result familiar. The door closes gently. The bell rings one final time, its sound lingering briefly in the quiet air before fading completely. The lights dim. One, then another. The front window reflects the street now instead of showing the inside. Streetlights flicker on, casting soft pools of light along the pavement. The store is closed. The walk home begins. The steps are slow, familiar, unhurried. The sidewalk feels steady beneath foot. The distance from the store to home is known by feel, not by thought. The street holds its shape. Houses glow softly as lights turn on inside. Curtains shift, then settle. The air cools gently, carrying the quiet sounds of evening. Footsteps move along the sidewalk. They pause, then continue. The town rests around them. Lights remain on where they need to be. Sounds fade gradually. The street stays the same. The walk continues, steady and calm. The town remains, and the evening settles in quietly, without ending. The town rests beside the harbour in a way that feels natural, as if it simply settled there one day and never felt the need to move again. Water stretches out beyond the docks, calm and familiar. Boats are tied in the same places they have always been, their lines slack, moving gently with the tide. The harbour is not large. It does not try to impress. It holds just enough space for what belongs there. A single main street runs parallel to the water. It begins near the docks, where the air smells faintly of salt and sun-warmed wood, and continues inland for a short distance, before slowly thinning into quieter roads. The street is wide enough for passing cars, and narrow enough that walking always feels easier. Buildings line the street in an unremarkable way. Most are one-story. A few rise slightly higher, their upper windows rarely used. Paint is faded in places, freshened in others, but nothing stands out enough to be remembered later. Storefronts sit close together near the centre, then spread farther apart as the street moves away from the harbour. The distance between places is small. From the docks to the centre of town is an easy walk. From one end of the main street to the other takes only a few minutes at a relaxed pace. No one checks the time when walking here. The distances are known by habit rather than measurement. Near the middle of town, the open square waits. It is not large. It does not have a name anyone uses. It is simply the place where things happen when they need space. The ground is flat and worn smooth. There are no permanent decorations. only room to set things down and pick them up again. A few side streets branch away quietly. They lead to houses, small yards, and familiar paths. Each street curves gently, never sharply, guiding movement without asking for decisions. The houses are close enough to feel connected, far enough apart to feel private. The harbour remains visible from many places. Between buildings, beyond rooftops, the water appears again and again, reflecting light in a steady, predictable way. The sound of it is soft, almost constant, easy to ignore until noticed. A short pier extends into the water. It is sturdy, unchanging. People walk along it without thinking about where it leads. It leads only back again. The town does not feel busy. Even when more people are present, the pace remains the same. Movement happens, but never quickly. Voices carry gently, softened by open air and familiar surroundings. Nothing here feels distant. The docks, the street, the square, the houses, all of it fits within a small, comfortable range. A person can cross town without effort, without planning, without noticing the time passing. The summer festival uses what already exists. It does not transform the town, it simply occupies it for a while. Tables are placed where there is space. Stalls appear where people already walk. Nothing permanent changes. The town remains itself. The harbour stays calm. The street keeps its shape. The square waits. Everything feels prepared, not because anything has been done yet, but because the town is always ready to hold what comes and let it pass again. The day begins the same way it always does. Morning light reaches the harbour first, spreading across the water in a soft, even shimmer. The tide moves gently, boats rising and falling in small, steady motions. Nothing pulls them in any direction. They stay where they are meant to be. Along the main street, doors unlock. The sounds are quiet and familiar. A key turns, a door opens, another follows, farther down the street. Lights come on inside storefronts, warming the windows without brightening the air too much. Walking begins early. Footsteps move along the sidewalk at an unhurried pace. Someone crosses from one side of the street to the other. Another pauses near the harbour railing, then continues on. The festival preparations begin slowly. Tables are carried from storage, one at a time, and set down in the open square. Their legs are adjusted until they sit evenly. Cloths are spread across their surfaces, smoothed carefully, then left alone. Nothing feels rushed. The same motions repeat. A table is placed, a cloth is adjusted. Someone steps back to check the spacing. Then it happens again, and again. The street remains open. Cars pass through at the same pace they always do. Some park and remain, others continue on. The presence of the tables does not change the way anyone moves. Inside the shops, the usual routines continue. Shelves are checked, counters are wiped, doors open and close. The bell above one door rings softly, then fades. Each sound fits neatly into the morning. The harbour remains steady. Boats shift slightly. Ropes creak faintly. The smell of salt and warm wood drifts through the air, mixing with the scent of the street as the day warms. Mid-morning arrives quietly. The light grows brighter, more even. Shadows shorten along the pavement. The open square fills a little more, not with people yet, but with familiar objects placed in familiar ways. A canopy is raised. Its fabric stretches slowly, adjusted until it sits just right. Poles are secured. Someone steps back, nods, and moves on. The same pattern repeats elsewhere. Another canopy, another table, another cloth. Nothing looks finished yet, and nothing needs to be. People walk through the space as they always do. Some pause briefly to look. Others continue on, following paths they know by heart. Greetings happen naturally, quietly, without drawing attention. The day continues. The shops remain open. The street remains active in its usual way. The festival setup does not interrupt the routine. It simply blends into it. By midday, the square looks familiar again. Not because it has returned to how it was, but because the changes feel expected. Tables and canopies sit comfortably, as if they have always been there. The harbour glints in the sun. The water remains calm. The boats remain tied. The pier holds its shape. Afternoon arrives. The light warms. The air feels softer. People move through the town in the same patterns they always have, only now they pass between tables instead of across open ground. The festival does not announce itself. It simply exists. Routine continues around it. The afternoon settles into its familiar shape. The sun remains high, though its warmth feels steady rather than strong. Light reflects off the harbour in small, repeating patterns. Each ripple looks much like the last, changing without truly becoming different. People move through the square again and again. The same paths are followed. Someone walks from the docks toward the centre of town, then later returns the same way. Another circles the square once, pauses briefly, then continues on. These movements repeat without needing to be noticed. The tables remain where they were placed. Cloths stay smooth, their edges lifting slightly in the breeze, then resting again. Items sit on their surfaces in neat arrangements, not crowded, not sparse. Hands reach for them, then move away. The sounds repeat. Footsteps on pavement. The faint creak of dock ropes. A soft greeting carried on the air. Each sound appears, then fades, leaving room for the next one. The same faces appear again. Someone who passed through earlier returns, walking at the same pace. Another stands near the harbour railing, looking out at the water, just as they did before. A familiar figure crosses the street, pauses, then crosses back again later. The repetition feels settled. Nothing draws attention. Nothing feels new. Shops along the main street continue their routines. Doors open and close. Bells ring softly. Counters are wiped. Shelves are checked. The presence of the festival does not change these actions. It simply exists alongside them. The diner fills, then empties, then fills again. The sounds inside rise briefly, then soften. Light glows through the windows, reflecting onto the street in the same way it always has. The harbour remains unchanged. Boats shift gently. The tide moves in small, predictable motions. The pier holds steady beneath passing footsteps, The festival continues quietly. People walk through it, not toward it. They stop when they wish. They move on when they are ready. The space never feels crowded. It never feels empty. The same sounds return. Laughter, soft and brief. The low murmur of conversation. The distant call of a seabird. Each one feels familiar, even if it cannot be placed. The afternoon moves forward without marking time. The light changes slightly. Shadows lengthen. The air cools just enough to be noticed, then steadies again. Everything repeats, and in that repetition, the town feels calm, predictable, and at ease. Evening begins to settle over the harbour. The light softens first, spreading into warmer tones that rest on the water and the street alike. Reflections shimmer more slowly now, their movement gentler, less insistent. Along the main street, shops begin to close. Doors lock quietly, lights dim inside. Window displays glow softly for a while, then fade into reflection as the sky darkens. The routine unfolds the same way it does every evening. In the square, the festival eases into stillness. Some tables are cleared. Cloths are folded carefully, not hurried, not delayed. Items are packed away into boxes that will be carried back where they came from. The same motions repeat. A cloth folded, a box closed, a table lifted slightly, then set down again. People move through the space one last time. They walk the same paths they did earlier. They pause in familiar places. Their steps sound softer now against the pavement. The harbour remains calm. Boats rest against their lines. The tide continues its quiet movement. The smell of salt lingers in the cooling air, steady and familiar. Street lights flicker on. They cast small pools of light along the pavement, touching the edges of buildings and the corners of the square. The light does not reach far. It does not need to. The diner stays open a little longer. Its windows glow warmly, reflecting the street and the harbour beyond. Inside, sounds are low, steady, unhurried. The last tables are moved. The square opens up again, returning to its usual shape without ceremony. Nothing marks the change except the absence of what was there before. The festival does not end. It simply stops being visible. The town remains. Shops are closed. Lights glow softly. The harbour rests. People walk home at an easy pace. Footsteps fade into the evening air. Doors close gently behind them. The street holds its familiar shape. The water continues to move. The town settles into rest. Quietly, predictably, without needing to mark the moment. And everything continues on, just as it always does.